Good morning children, welcome back to online teaching. Yesterday we have seen about the transportation, that is the circulatory system introduction. Let's recapitulate these points. So yesterday we have seen all the living organisms are made up of with the cells. For the cells to live, it need food, oxygen and water. So when we see in the unicellular organism, by the simple process of diffusion and osmosis it will be occurring. So when we see in multicellular organism, diffusion and osmosis is not sufficient, as the body is made up of trillions of the cells. And here we have developed an efficient system, that is the circulatory system, to transfer the food from one place to another place. So when we see the main parts of the circulatory system, it consists of heart, blood and blood vessels plays a major role for transporting the substances. So today we clearly see about these things and in detail about the structure of the function of the heart. So yesterday we have seen the external structure of the heart and we have seen about the internal structure of the heart. Let's recollect the parts that the heart it is having. So when we see the external structure of the heart it is pear-shaped structure. The heart it is pear-shaped structure. When we observe the heart, it is having broader at the anterior and apex will be pointed. It has a broader at the anterior side and apex at the down. So here it clearly shows that the heart it is divided into 4 chambers. The upper chambers are called auricles and the lower chambers are called the ventricles. And the heart it is protected by a membranes called pericardial membranes. These pericardial membranes protect the heart from the external shocks and injury, and it is filled with the pericardial fluid. And when we observe the heart, on the top itself we observe the 2 blood vessels. So these red color blood vessels are called coronary arteries, and these blood vessels they are called the coronary veins. The coronary arteries and coronary veins, they supply blood to the walls of the heart to work continuously, and veins remove the deoxygenated blood from the heart and opens into the right auricle. So when we will go for the internal structure of the heart, here the heart, yesterday we have seen the lab activity, so we need a specimen collected from the butcher, and we need a dissection tray, and we need the forceps, and we need a sharp blade or scalpel. So longitudinal, in order to see the internal structure of the heart, we longitudinally cut the heart so that we can see the internal parts of the heart. So when we see the internal parts of the heart it consists of upper chambers of the heart are called the auricles. So we can see the auricles here. So that is right auricle and right ventricle. And here we observe the walls, that is tricapsule wall, and here we observe the bicapsule wall. And down we observe the ventricles, right ventricle and left ventricles. The walls are kept in a position by a thick strands called cardia tendae. So this is the internal structure of the heart. So once again we will recall the upper chambers of the heart is called auricles, right auricle, left auricle, and lower chambers are called ventricles, that is right ventricle and left ventricle. So these auricles are separated by interauricular septum, and ventricles are separated by interventricular septum, and both auricle and ventricle are separated by interauriculoventricular septum. So these interauriculoventricular septum we also observe both in between the right auricle and right ventricle, and we will also observe in the left auricle and left ventricle. So the interauriculoventricular septum and will be helpful to prevent the mixing of oxygenated blood and deoxygenated blood. So this, and when we observe at the atrium or auricles, we observe the main blood vessels that are bringing blood to the heart and that are taking the blood away from the heart. So the blood vessels that take the blood away from the heart, they are called the arteries, and the blood vessels that bring blood to the heart, they are called the veins. So we observe 4 types of the veins that are bringing blood to the heart. They are called superior vena cava and inferior vena cava. And anyhow we have seen about the coronary vein here and the external structure, and along with that we will also observe the pulmonary vein. pulmonary vein will be observing. So that is superior vena cava, inferior vena cava, coronary vein and pulmonary vein will be observing. And when we see the arteries, we observe the largest artery, that is the systemic aorta, and we observe the pulmonary artery. So pulmonary artery, systemic aorta, and we observe the coronary artery on the top of the heart. So these are the 6 blood vessels that will be attached to the heart. So there is veins and arteries. Arteries walls are thick as it has to pump the blood to the different parts. And when we see the veins, it will be just bringing the blood to the heart. So the walls of the arteries are thick when compared to the walls of the veins are thin. And when we observe the internal structure of the heart, so the the right part of the heart space will be more when compared to the left part, because the right auricle and right ventricle is having the more space when compared to the left auricle and left ventricle, because more amount of the deoxygenated blood should be collected by the right auricle, whereas the left auricle receives the oxygenated blood from the lungs. So that's why the space will be less. And when we see the walls of the ventricles are thicker than the auricles, the ventricles has to pump the blood to the different parts of the body. Just the auricles receives the blood from the upper parts of the body. So from this we have seen the external structure and internal structure of the heart. So it is pear shaped and it is roughly triangle. And one important thing is the heart is about a fist of a person. So it will be a fist of a person. How much the size your fist will be there, that much size there will be the fist of the heart. So next we'll continue the next part of today's lesson is the blood vessels and circulation. The blood vessels and circulation. So when we see in 16th century, the people do not know about the functioning of the blood vessels. So just they know the heart is the main organ of the circulatory system. But before 16th century, they do not know about the arteries and veins. So after 16th century, the first scientist who observed the blood vessels is Girolamo Fabrici. So he was between 1574. So he was the first person to work. He observed the veins in the legs. He was the first person to observe the veins in the leg. So when we observe the veins in the leg, so you know that the veins bring the blood to the heart. So the blood will be flowing in the veins. It moves towards the heart. Means it is moving away from the gravity. So generally you know that whenever any object is fallen down, it falls down because of the gravitational force. But when we see in the veins, the blood is moving against the gravity. And here, that is one way it will be flowing. And when he observed, he observed a tiny structures, tiny delicate structure in the walls of the veins. So these are called valves. So these valves allow the blood to flow only in one direction. Even when you tighten the legs or when you make the person upright, it always flows in one direction. It always moves towards the heart. And when we squeeze the muscles also, the blood will be flowing upwards. So whenever reverse flow occurs, the valves immediately closes. So that it clearly indicates that the blood in the veins will move towards the heart. So that was the discovery done by the Fabrici, and he failed to explain in the blood flow in the left ventricle. So yesterday I told that the pure blood will be pumped by the ventricle into the systemic aorta. From the systemic aorta, the blood flows down. So it is clear that the blood is coming down. Towards the gravity it is moving. So that he failed to explain by the Fabrici. So after the Fabrici's work, it was continued by his student William Harvey. He was between 1578 to 1657. He is an English doctor and he studied under the Fabrici. So he continued the research done by Fabrici. So here he was the first person to dissect the dead body. So when we see in the past, they don't allow to dissect any animal or humans. But during William Harvey period, he started dissecting the human body and he able to cut the dead person's heart, and he is able to explain the structure of the heart, and also blood circulation was first explained by the William Harvey. When he was the first person to tell that heart it contains auricles and ventricles. Auricles and ventricles. Well, he was the first person to tell the heart contains the upper chambers are called auricles and lower chambers are called ventricles. So when we see in the picture, so these are the auricles and these are the ventricles. The upper chambers are auricles and lower chambers are called ventricles. And he told first that there are walls in between the heart. So there is between right auricle and right ventricle, we observe the tricapsule wall, and also we observe the pulmonary wall. When we see in the left part of the heart, it contains bicapsule wall and aortic wall. So these are the four walls which allows the blood to flow only in one direction, that is from auricles to ventricles. When blood want to go back from ventricles to auricles, these walls prevents. So just what his guru told, that was clearly explained here. Here, just like how the walls in the legs work, in the same way the walls in the heart also work. It allows to flow blood only in one direction, that is from auricles to ventricles. That was the first discovery done by the William Harvey in the dead person's heart. So next he continued by dissecting the other animals. So he dissected other animals and observed how the blood flows in the arteries and veins. So when we observe the vein, he has taken the vein of an animal and he tied a thread around the artery. So when he tied the thread around the artery, he observed a bulge towards the heart. That is nothing but the heart is pumping the blood towards the artery. So that's why a bulging is seen on the top of the knot. So from this it is clear that the arteries bring the blood from the heart and sends to the different parts. So when we see the veins, we'll be tying a knot, and here we observe the bulging is away from the heart. The blood is moving from down to up. So that is the blood is moving towards the heart, and bulge we observe away from the heart. So that is, it clearly indicates artery carries blood away from the heart, veins bring blood to the heart. So that is another discovery done by the William Harvey. So next, after that, he called the circulation as a greater circulation. So that is the human circulation, he called it as a greater circulation. Why he called it as a greater circulation is, here the heart pumps the blood first to the lungs. From lungs the blood will be purified, and the purified blood again comes to the heart. From the heart it sends to the body parts. And the deoxygenated blood will be again taken to the heart. So here we observe the double circuit circulation in the heart. And the heart pumps the blood two times. Once between heart and lungs, and second time between heart and body parts. So that's why he called it as a greater circulation, or will be calling it as a double circuit circulation, and that heart will be calling it as pulmonary heart, or will be calling it as double circuit heart. So next discovery done by the William Harvey is he failed to explain between the connection between the arteries and veins. So that is the continuous network of the circulation he failed to observe, because no instruments sufficient equipments are not there in order to see the smaller objects. So after his work, the other scientist called Marcello Marfisi continued the work of the William Harvey. So what the Marcello Marfisi has did is he used the microscope. He was between 1628 to 1694. He was the first person to use the microscope to see the tiny objects. So he observed that is he observed the arteries. The arteries are broken down into a small branches called the capillaries. The arteries are broken down into a small blood vessels called the capillaries. So these he clearly observed in the back wing. That is potassium, what we call. So in the back wing it is transparent, and generally with the eye itself we can see the blood vessels. But tiny blood vessels we can't see clearly, so that you can see with the help of microscope as it magnifies these blood vessels. And these tiny blood vessels called the capillaries connects the arteries and veins. So that with the discovery of capillaries, there is a complete circulation of blood can be clearly explained in the human beings. So that was done by the Marcello Malpighi. Because of the Malpighi, so it is clear that the heart is sending the blood to the arteries. From the arteries it goes to the capillaries. From the capillaries the blood goes to the cells. How the way it enters, in the same way it will be sent back to the heart by the veins. So the complete circulation can be clearly explained after the Marcello Malpighi work. So next we'll go for the next topic today's lesson, the most important topic, that is now you know that our heart consists of two types of the blood vessels, main blood vessels, that is the arteries and veins. When we see the artery, vein, and we have seen about the capillaries. So these are the three blood vessels we observe. You have seen that these capillaries are tiny blood vessels. So in our body also, we observe the capillaries at the tip of the fingers, and we will be observing in the eyes. So, and these are tiny blood vessels. It is about 1 cell thickness. As it is 1 cell thickness, it is easy for diffusion of the gases or the food material. So these are tiny blood vessels, and it has very thin lumen. So when we see the vein, so the vein brings the blood to the heart, you know. And these vein have large lumen. Lumen of the, by the seeing the lumen itself, you can identify whether it is an artery or vein. So when we see the artery have a small lumen. Small lumen will be observed in the arteries. So now let us see a 4 marks question for you. What is the difference between the arteries and veins? Arteries and veins. So these arteries, when we observe, the walls of the arteries are thick. Walls of the arteries are thick. So when we see the walls of the veins, these veins walls are thin. So next, walls are, except in the systemic aorta and pulmonary artery, remaining all the arteries, they don't have the walls are absent. No walls are present. But we have seen in the Fabrici's experiment, the veins have the walls. So pressure will be more in arteries, whereas pressure will be less in veins. You know that the heart receives the blood directly from that is arteries receives blood directly from the heart. So the pressure will be more in arteries, whereas just the vein has to bring the blood to the heart. So that's why the pressure will be less in the veins. Next, when we see these all arteries carries oxygenated blood. That is pure blood. So which blood will be calling it as oxygenated blood? The blood which contains more oxygen and less carbon dioxide. So that blood will be calling it as oxygenated blood. These veins will be carrying deoxygenated blood. All the veins carries deoxygenated blood. That is nothing but it contains more carbon dioxide and less oxygen. That is, impure blood will be calling it as deoxygenated blood. Pure blood will be calling it as oxygenated blood. All the arteries will carry oxygenated blood. All the veins will carry the deoxygenated blood. Except pulmonary vein will be carrying oxygenated blood. Pure blood. That is, the blood that is purified from the heart, from the lungs, will be taken by the pulmonary vein and it opens into the left aorta. When we see the arteries, the arteries carries oxygenated blood. All the arteries carries oxygenated blood except pulmonary artery. Pulmonary artery will be carrying the deoxygenated blood. So here when we see the direction of blood flow, when we see the direction of blood flow in the arteries takes the blood away from the heart, whereas the veins brings the blood towards the heart. So these are the main differences between the arteries and veins.
Okay.
So let's continue the most important topic, that is the cardiac cycle. So we have seen about the structure of the heart. The heart is the main pumping organ. So now let us see how the heart it works to pump the blood to the different parts of the body. Here, one contraction and relaxation of auricles and ventricles is called cardiac cycle. The contraction and relaxation of both auricles and ventricles is called cardiac cycle. So the heart starts pumping from the 21st day of the embryonic development. So that is when you are in the mother's womb itself, the start pumping the blood, and it continues up to death. So that is from the 21st day of the embryonic development, the heart start working and it continues up to the death. If it stops working, we can't live. So the heart, in the heart we observe the cardiac cycle is the most important step. Now let us see how these cardiac cycle will be occur. So here first when the heart it is at the relaxed stage. So that is before 25th day when we observe the heart, all the chambers of the heart and the relaxed state. The auricles are relaxed and ventricles are relaxed. So that is relaxation of atria, that is nothing but the auricles, and ventricle is the first stage in the cardiac cycle. And now with the cardiac cycle starts, from the superior and inferior vena cava, the blood flows into the right auricle. And anyhow, we know that this pulmonary vein brings the oxygenated blood from the lungs. The oxygenated blood is brought by the pulmonary vein and opens into the left auricle, whereas the deoxygenated blood from all the body parts by superior and inferior vena cava will brings and opens into the right auricle. So then both the auricles contracts and pumps the blood into the ventricles. So this tricuspid wall will be helpful for sending the blood from auricle to ventricle. So the bicuspid wall will be helpful for sending the blood into the ventricles. When blood is completely sent from the auricles to the ventricles, the walls close. So when the blood it wants to go from ventricles to auricles, immediately these walls closes and it produces a strong sound called love. So there is the strong sound we observe, that strong sound because of the closing of tricuspid and bicuspid wall. So that is the first sound of the heart, that is love. The contraction of auricles will be helpful for pumping the blood into the ventricles. When after completely filling in the ventricles, some amount of the blood wants to go to the auricles, so that time immediately the walls will close. When the walls closes, it produces the first sound called the love. So next when we go for the next stage, that is the third stage in the cardiac cycle, the blood is completely filled in the ventricles. Then the ventricles will send the blood to the pulmonary artery and systemic artery. When blood from the ventricles, when it is going to the pulmonary artery, that is from the right ventricle through the pulmonary wall, it goes to the pulmonary artery. So that is the blood is taken to the lungs by the pulmonary artery. And here from the left ventricle, the oxygenated blood will be gone to the systemic wall. From the systemic wall, it goes to the systemic artery or systemic aorta, the largest blood vessel which supplies blood to all the body parts. That is, the largest artery in the body is systemic aorta. The smallest artery, that is called the pulmonary artery. So here, when the blood completely goes from the ventricles to the arteries, some amount of the blood wants to come back to the ventricles. That time, the walls that are present in the arteries get closed. So that is here the systemic wall closes and pulmonary wall closes. The pulmonary wall which is going to the lungs closes and the systemic wall closes. As a result, we observe a mild sound called the dub. So that's why we call the lub dub to the heartbeat. So there is a large sound, a strong sound will be produced by closing the wall between the auricles and ventricles. A mild sound we observe when the walls in the arteries, that is pulmonary artery and systemic artery, closes. It produces a mild sound called dub. That together forms the lub dub to the heartbeat. So when the blood flows from the ventricles to the pulmonary artery and systemic artery, the walls closes. Then from the systemic artery, the blood goes to the body parts, and from the pulmonary artery, it goes to the lungs, and both the ventricles get relaxed. So both the ventricles gets relaxed. So that is the next stage. That is the first stage. We observe both the auricles contract. So the contraction of the auricles is called auricular systole. When both auricles contract, that stage is called auricular systole. Contraction phase of the heart is called auricular systole. Then both the ventricles contracts. Ventricular contracts, that we call it as ventricular systole. Ventricular systole. Here the ventricles get contract. Next, both auricles and ventricles. Both auricles, ventricles get relaxed. So that relaxation we call it as diastole. So from this it is clear that we observe the three stages. First is auricular systole, then it is contraction of auricles. Next we will be seeing about the ventricular systole, contraction of ventricles, which helps the blood to go to the arteries, that is the systemic artery and pulmonary artery. Then both auricles and the ventricles will get relaxed. That stage we call it as diastole. Relaxation phase is called diastole. Contraction phase is called systole. So when both the auricles and ventricles are relaxed, the auricles are ready for taking the blood from the pulmonary vein, and also from superior and inferior vena cava, the blood continues. So in this way, the cardiac cycle will occur in the stages. And so the total cardiac cycle, in order to carry out, it takes nearly 0.8 seconds. That is auricular systole, ventricular systole, auriculoventricular diastole. So it takes nearly 0.8 seconds. When we see only the auricular systole, these auricular systole will be taking 0.11 to 0.14 seconds. And ventricular systole, it will be taking 0.27 to 0.35 seconds to complete the cardiac cycle. So we continue the next topic, that is the weight of the heart. You know that the size of the heart is about the one's fist, and when we see the weight of the heart, it is about 2% of the body weight. When the weight of the body increases, naturally the weight of the heart increases, the heartbeat decreases. When we take some examples of the animals which are having the higher weight and having the higher heart weight, and we will be observing lesser heartbeat per minute. So when we see in the human beings, it is between 70 to 80 times per minute. So when we see in the blue whale, it is about the weight of the body is 1,50,000 kgs, and the weight of the 2% of the body weight is 750 kgs, and it beats only 7 times per minute. When we see the elephant, the weight of the elephant nearly 3,000 kgs, and the weight of the heart will be 12 to 21 kgs. And when we see the number of times the heart beats per minute is only 46. When we see the man, if he is between 60 to 70 kgs, then the weight of the heart is 300 grams. And it will be between 70 to 80 times. Here it is nearly 76 times per minute. And when we see the full tick bird, a small bird, the weight of the bird is only 8 grams, and the weight of the heart is 0.15 grams, and it beats nearly 1200 times per minute. So from this it is clear that when the weight of the body increases, then the weight of the heart also increases, then we will be observing decrease in the heartbeat. So that is about the weight of the relation between the weight of the body and weight of the heart. Next we'll go for the most important topic, that is single circuit circulation and double circuit circulation. When we observe the single circuit circulation, here the heart pumps the blood only once between the heart and body parts. That is called single circuit circulation. This type of circulation we observe in the fishes. So here you know that the respiratory organs in the fishes are the gills. Here the deoxygenated, the heart is two-chambered. It consists of only one auricle and one ventricle. So heart in the fishes have only two chambers, that is one auricle and one ventricle. So these ventricle blood, auricle, when we see the deoxygenated blood from all the body parts is taken by the vein and opens into the auricle. From auricle it goes to the ventricle. So then from the ventricle the blood is carried to the gills by the artery. In the artery we observe the conversion of deoxygenated blood into oxygenated blood. As the gills are richly supplied with the blood, when the water flows over the gills, the exchange of gases occurs, the blood gets purified in the gills. That purified blood from the gills will be sent to the body parts through these blood vessels. So from this it is clear that the heart pumps the blood only once, that is from heart to the gills, and from the body part directly the blood will be going from the gills to the body parts. So this type of circulation is called single circuit circulation, what we observe in the fishes, and this heart is called branchial heart, and the type of circulation is branchial circulation. When we see in the higher animals, we observe the double circuit circulation. The heart pumps the blood once between the heart and lungs, and second time from heart to the body parts. This is called double circuit circulation, and the heart, it is called double circuit heart. As the blood is pumped to the heart, pumped to the lungs, we call it as pulmonary heart. Let's clearly see about the double circuit circulation in human beings. In all the mammals also we observe the double circuit circulation. You know that the heart consists of four chambers. The upper chambers are called auricles and lower chambers are called ventricles. The auricles are separated by interauricular septum and the ventricles are separated by interventricular septum. It clearly indicates there is no mixing of oxygenated blood and deoxygenated blood. That is, pure blood and impure blood doesn't mix here. Here, when we clearly see the double circuit circulation, here from the body parts, vena cava, that is superior and inferior vena cava, brings the deoxygenated blood into the right auricle. From right auricle, it goes to the right ventricle. From right ventricle, through the pulmonary artery, it goes to the lungs. In the lungs, the blood gets purified. That purified blood will be taken by the pulmonary vein and opens into the left auricle. From left auricle, it comes to the left ventricle. From left ventricle, it goes to the body parts through the largest artery, that is the systemic aorta. From systemic aorta to the body parts. So here the heart is pumping once between the heart and lungs and second time heart and body parts. So that's why we call in higher animals a double circuit circulation, the heart, pulmonary heart, and we will be calling the heart as a double circuit heart. Next, we'll continue the last topic in today's lesson, that is evolution in the transport system. Evolution in the transport system. Here we clearly see how the transport system has developed from lower organisms to the higher animals. So when we see in the lower organisms like amoeba, hydra, here the body is made up of with single cell. So that's why we'll be calling these organisms as a unicellular organisms. And the body is completely exposed to the environment. So that's why the incoming water which is having the food will be taken to the cytoplasm, and by the Brownian movement of cytoplasm will be observing the transport of food throughout the body. So Brownian movement, the movement of the cytoplasm, the vigorous movement of cytoplasm in the amoeba will be calling it as Brownian movement, which will be helpful for the transport of food and also for the removal of waste material from the body. So the same cytoplasmic movement will also see in higher animals. Even our cytoplasm will move to transfer the substances in the cytoplasm. Next, when we go a little developed animal, that is parazoans. Example for the parazoans are sponges. So you know that these sponges will be present in the sea. The sea water currents will be helpful for transport of substances in the sponges. So the beating of flagella will be helpful for transport the substance from one part to the another part, and the same way how it will be transferred and transported to each and every cell, the waste material also will be removed in the sponges. So by sea water currents and beating of flagella, sea water currents and beating of flagella will be helpful for the transport of substances in the parazoans, that is in the sponges. When we see the coelentrates, a bigger animal when compared to the parazoans, so here we observe, example is the hydra. When we see the hydra, it contains ectoderm, endoderm and mesoderm, a somewhat developed animal. When we observe here, a center, it has a cavity, so that cavity is called gastrovascular cavity. So these gastrovascular cavity will be helpful for transport of substance to each and every cell of the body. So the ingoing water will be taking the food, oxygen, and the outgoing water will be sending the waste material in the coelentrates, that is the hydra. Hydra is the example will be taking, which is having the gastrovascular cavity. Next, when we go for the platyhelminthes, so platyhelminthes, by the name itself it is indicating, flatty means flat, ribbon-like organisms. Ribbon-like organisms will be observing in the platyhelminthes. Example for the platyhelminthes, you can take Fasciola hepatica. So when we observe in the Fasciola hepatica, it has a mouth. Surrounded by the mouth, we observe the Fasciola hepatica. This is a parasite. Here, two branch structures, that is blood vessels, which will be helpful for transporting the substance from the one part to another part. The main organs for transporting these substances, food to various cells, and also for removing the cells, these two branch structures will be helpful. And at the center, it also have the excretory organs. Almost all the body is filled with these branch structures and also the excretory material to undergo the process of transport system in platyhelminthes. Next, when we go for the nematodes, so in the nematodes, I can take the example is the roundworm. When we observe in the roundworm, the body at the center will have the coelom. The open cavity present inside the middle of the worm, we observe the pseudocoelom. Pseudocoelom, false cavity. Pseudo means false, coelom means cavity. The false cavity will be helpful for transporting the substance from one part to another part. Next, let us go for the annelids. So, example for the annelids, these are coelomates, and example for the annelids is earthworm, true coelomates. So, from these we can observe some organizations, that is well developed organs can be clearly seen from these grade of animals. So the annelids, example is earthworm, they are eucoelomates. Eu is nothing but true coelom having animals are called eucoelomates. Now let us take the earthworm. The earthworm body will be round, and we observe a blood vessels on the top, that is dorsal blood vessel, and another blood vessel we observe it down. So that is dorsal blood vessel and ventral blood vessel will be observed. So these blood vessels will be acting like arteries and veins in our body. One blood vessel will transport the substance, the another blood vessel will remove the waste material from the body. And we also observe 8 pairs of the heart in the earthworm. That is, here in the earthworm we are seeing the heart, but it is present in the pairs, 8 pairs, not fully developed heart will be observed. And these are connected by the 2 blood vessels, that is dorsal and ventral blood vessel. that will be helpful for transporting the substance. Here we have observed the heart, blood vessels and blood. A complete circulatory system will be observing in the 2 coelomates. Next, when we go for the arthropods, example for the arthropods, cockroach. A different type of circulatory system we observe in the cockroach. When we observe the cockroach, we observe chambers of the heart, and the blood will be flowing in the open spaces. So the heart, 8 chambers of the heart is present, and the blood is white in color, and it does not have the hemoglobin, and the blood will not play a role in respiration. Only it will be helpful for transporting the substance and removing of the substance from the body. The heart pumps the blood into the open spaces in the cockroach. That open spaces will be calling it as sinuses. And as there is no blood vessels, we call it as open type of circulation. And we have seen the tracheal system. Tracheal system will be sending the oxygen to each and every cell, and this blood will be supplying food to the cell. So here the complete circulation is observed, but we don't observe the blood vessels in the cockroach or in all the insects. Will be observing open type of circulatory system. The heart pumps the blood into the open spaces, so that is called the sinuses, and this type of circulation is called open type of circulatory system that we observe in the cockroach. So next, when we go for the higher animals, we see in the higher animals like molluscans, echinoderms, cephalopods, and even in reptiles, snails, mammals, we observe the double circuit circulation, and a well-developed transport system is seen. That is, we have 4-chambered heart, and it is connected by the arteries and veins, that is the blood vessels, and tiny blood vessels, capillaries are present. So we have heart, blood vessels and blood, a complete transport system, a highly developed transport system will be observing in the higher group of animals. So from this it is clear that we have double circuit circulation, and next part of the lesson will be continued in the next section. Thank you.